the credit with the silence. It's
credits with silence. Yeah.
yeah, it's a good way to end the movie.
Yeah, kind of last exam to the patients of the.
Well, you like to work on our patients during the film, so I think it's a perfect way to end it.
Yeah.
I have a few questions, and then we can open it up to the audience. I think it's something you've talked about in interviews and other Q&A, but it's obviously, I would say there's some autobiographical element in the film, and Yoav would be some sort of alter ego for you. So can you maybe talk about maybe the starting point when you wrote the film with your father, but just at the beginning of the writing this, and how much you were willing to go into your autobiographical experience to discuss?
Hi, good evening. Yeah, I mean, the film is there's no other way to say the film is pretty autobiographical. I mean, I myself, like all the good and the bad Israelis, I passed through military service, 3 years and a half, and then went back to my hometown. Started to study philosophy in the university, to write for a newspaper, to write novels. And one day I had this feeling as if I heard I don't know, I hesitate if I should say divine voice after they said that God doesn't exist, but let's say, yeah.
It doesn't exist in France.
Exactly.
But it
In Israel it exists too much. Yeah, but yeah, kind of. I felt and obliged. I felt and kind of urge to leave immediately, to run away and to never come back. I felt that I have to save my soul, as if it's almost too late already. And a few days later, I've landed in Charles de Gaulle Airport with no concrete plans for the future, except for this huge project of dying as an Israeli and being reborn as French, and I was convinced that I'm going to live and die in Paris, hoping to have to reach adventures and glory, and being buried in Père Lachaise, exactly like Yoav, and the rest you've seen here. So yeah, it's I mean, on this level it's pretty autobiographical. What I can say is that years later, when I decided to, because I mean, I didn't hold my promise. I went back to Israel. Today I live there in Tel Aviv. But years later, when I was about to make this movie, I went back. I had like notebooks when I was writing like all sort of words in French that I liked, and I found out that I've taken some notes at the period, and I mean. Already it was interesting because at the period I didn't know, at this period I wasn't planning at all to be filmmaker. I didn't know anything about cinema. I thought that like films, it's like actors and camera, and you know, I don't know. I was totally ignorant, but so I was taking some notes and I didn't know what they're what's the use of doing that. But in these notes sometimes I described events, but sometimes mainly I described a feeling, and I felt that there was something. It was like an endless vibration. And when I started to think about this movie, I understood that above all the chronics, I'll have to find again this vibration and put it on the screen. And this, I think, for me was the highest challenge here, to find this pulsion, this movement.
So working, I mean, in a different country where you obviously didn't stay. For you, was it more of a challenge or maybe easier to overcome some limitation?
No, it was a very big challenge for me. Like at the beginning, I was really afraid to become like this director tourist, you know, who come to Paris and
Oh, you're thinking Woody Allen?
yeah, he has enough troubles at this moment. I won't. I was afraid, yeah, to find myself in this position of the tourist who's fascinated by this and fascinated by that, and you know, Paris. I mean, each respectable and unrespectable director has put a certain moment took a shot of Paris, and it was a very big challenge. And I think that, you know, in a way, I mean. And I remember there was a kind of dilemma. I mean, there was one option to avoid the trap by going to the more anonymous, less specific corners of Paris, to the 19th district, to the 20th district, to places where Paris is just another city. And I think in a way, the choice that the movie took was exactly the opposite one, because the movie is going to the Notre Dame, and the movie is going to the bridges over the Seine, and the movie is going to Saint-Germain and to Saint-Michel. But I think that it's trying to deal with all of this, with all of these archetypes of Paris in its own way. I mean, to find maybe another different way to look upon all of this. Exactly like the movies. I mean, we sing the Marseillaise. We talk about the French roaster. I mean.
Many times.
Yeah, exactly. All the presidents of the Fifth Republic. Yeah.
As well as like shooting in a different country, I mean, the use of language is always important in your film. But also specifically in this one, and you switch languages. So you go from one to another and back, and then you refuse to use one, and it also defines the identity of a character. So can you maybe elaborate a little bit more? You talked just a little bit about the actor. He's an Israeli actor. I mean, was he an actor before? Was he?
He was a theater student. Yeah, okay. but it was his first time on set.
And he didn't speak French.
And he didn't speak French.
So you direct him in Hebrew, and he had to learn French, or you were speaking in French to him too?
No, I mean, it was, in a way, it was great the fact that he didn't speak French, because he had to pass through exactly the same preparation process. He went to Paris, he bought a French dictionary, he ate pasta, he did.
Did you give him clothes? Some
orange coat.
Well, the coat is amazing. So when you directed him, like, to relive your experience, or you just like went on a different path? Because you can't just recreate your life.
No, and is different than me, and is I mean, I like to think that he's like a better version. I mean, I don't like to think, but maybe he's a better version. But he has. I mean, I could easily talk with him about my experiences, because I knew that it will be different when he will be in the middle of the frame. I think he has a kind of liberty and freedom that I didn't have at the period, and I've never seen someone so free as him. I can talk endlessly about this guy. I mean, I don't know if you want, if you don't want, but
we have all night.
yeah. No, because okay, but no, because I think that, I mean, for me is a kind of miracle, I think, and he is a very, I mean, I think that he's a great actor, but before being a great actor, is an extremely strange and peculiar person, and very singular human being that really doesn't resemble to nothing that I knew before, and he has all this mixture and contradictions that I think that you can also feel in the movie. Is he was a judo champion in Israel, and then he became dancer, and he's extremely tender and fragile and vulnerable, and at the same time he has a lot of violence inside him, and he's so nice, and you can feel that he can explode in every second. And he's a hard worker, and I don't know, he'll fix a meeting with you in 9 o'clock, so he'll be there on 8:30 to be sure that he'll be on time. He's like the nicest guy, and yet he doesn't have any limits. I've never seen someone so free. I mean, there are these total actors that decide one day that they are total actors and they are free to do everything. He doesn't have to take this decision. He was born without frontiers, without limitations. And that's why, I don't know, for instance, this nudity scene and all of this, I mean, he had other difficulties, but these wasn't complicated for him. And he has really unlimited physical and intellectual capacities. So at a certain moment as a director, it's too seducing, because you feel that you can give him, doesn't matter any task, I don't know, walking on your hands the Boulevard Saint-Germain while reciting poems of Baudelaire, and he'll do it. 27 takes, if you wish. So you should restrain yourself from because you become addicted. I mean, suddenly you can. So yeah, it's special.
There's many themes that you're exploring in the film, but the one I find very interesting, it's the masculinity. Like it's certainly a show of masculinity. He's very masculine. He has a feminine side to him, and I think it works really well with the actor. But it seems also that's tied up with Israeli identity. So is it something that you could discuss or elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that maybe I'll try to attach it, because I always think, and sometimes people ask, so what's his big problem with Israel? And I think that in a way he himself cannot formulate this in one sentence, but clearly is moved by a very strong passion. But so Israel is represented in a movie by these young, muscular, smiling men who love their country and hate all the others, who like divide the word in a very dichotomic way between us and the others. And us, there's a kind of fraternity, and the others are all enemies, whether they'll be, I don't know, terrorists or neo-Nazi or passengers on the French metro. And I think that this masculinity becomes or shown in the film as the essence of this Israeli collective soul. And the reason I've chosen to do it is because I believe it's so. I believe that in a way this is the essence of the thing, the DNA of this thing. And at the same time, there's something in, because I think that also in the movie, all the tenderness, all the affection, and the love is addressed towards men. I mean, he sleeps with Caroline, but his affection is towards Emil, or towards even his muscular friend Yaron, the guy. And I think that also for me it's a very instinctive thing, because I don't know, for me it's connected again. It's connected to there is this. I've done my military service in a small military post on the frontier where there were only men. So you're full with emotions, and you address all these emotions to the people who surround you, which are men, but it's never so there is affection and tenderness and sometimes hostility and sometimes attraction, but it never gets to no one. I mean, never gets to sex. It never gets to even to kiss. So it's it's turning around, passing by all sort of stages. So I think in a way you can feel it in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can take some audience for the question. A question from the audience, sorry. There's someone here. We have microphone, it's coming just behind you. Yeah.
First of all, ze metzuyan, which means in Hebrew it's excellent. I relate to your movie on many levels because I'm Israeli, but I am an immigrant. I came here when I was 6 years old and went back, right, to try to, because I didn't feel like I belonged in America. So I went back when I was in college. I worked on a kibbutz, and anyway, it's not about me, but the point is I relate to your movie on many levels because I didn't feel like I belonged here, but then I went back and I felt I was softened by America and didn't belong there. What I want to ask you is two questions. First of all, I've related very much to the scene where he talks about, where he talks about his family being Holocaust survivors, which mine are too, and that he rejects the language of weakness. And so I want to ask you, to what extent, in your own personal experience, now that I know it's autobiographical, you feel that history is what enslaved you and what you had to run away from, and whether you feel like redemption, this is my second question, is really a matter of boundaries as opposed to an inner struggle that has no boundaries of country.
Wow. I think that Israel is a very being. Actually, afterwards, I thought that you can say maybe similar things about the U.S., for instance. But being is an idea who became a country. So Israel is a very symbolical place. Like everything has a kind of symbolic charge, and it's a place full with contradictions because it's natural. When you transform an idea to a praxis, and so you suddenly you confront all the contradictions of life, and yeah, the historical charge is a part. I guess it's a big part of it. I always felt that elsewhere the sky is more open, larger. It's also, it's also Israel at the same time. It's a totally, maybe again like other places, but it's a totally unhistorical place because everything happened yesterday. The Holocaust happened yesterday. I don't know. The temple was destroyed yesterday. Things that happened 2,000 years ago, they happened 1 hour ago, and it's always there. It's always present. It's always in each corner of the street. Yeah, so yeah, so I have the tendency to say that it has a lot of weight. What was the second question?
Whether you feel that, first of all, where you are on that spectrum, having returned, but whether you feel redemption is an issue of geography, or whether it's an inner struggle that we go through. Whether it has nothing to do with France or Israel or America. That's what I want to know.
I have this tendency to say that I'm only a filmmaker, and maybe I can. I mean, maybe it's. I can suggest. I can suggest. Try to fabricate things that will enable these reflections, but it's not like I have an answer. I mean, what do I know about redemption? But I'll answer a little bit differently. I mean, because from time to time, people ask you, so what's the film tells at the end? And then there is this habit to look at them with a certain condescendence and explaining them that films don't have a message, which is in a way true. But I think that if I can say something, and maybe it's connected a little bit to the question, that if I myself maybe I have a certain conclusion from all of this that maybe exists also in the movie, is that beside this issue of what you love and what you hate, there is this big question of who you are, and in a way, I mean, and unfortunately or fortunately, but unfortunately, these two questions are not connected, because you can love and hate a lot of things, but being what you are, and I think that here, I mean, it's clear. I mean, this guy is I don't know, is running away from something that is clearly inside him, that exists in his body, and is I don't know, he defines Israel at a certain moment as a sickness, as a disease, maybe, but he has more or less the same symptoms. Yes. 3 points. I don't know.
There's a question here. Oh, and then.
Hey, Nadav. So after you won the Berlin Film Festival, so the film was celebrated as an Israeli triumph. All the headlines, even some politicians and all the everybody in the public sphere talk about Israel, about Synonyms as an Israeli triumph, as an achievement, as something that just got into the Israeli legacy, cultural legacy. But we see in the film that you're basically, you and your character is basically trying to get out of all this all this tendency to incorporate you into the nation. And which is it's kind of an absurdity. This is kind of a complex that I would be really interested to hear what's your point of view about this absurdity. This funny thing that happened.
Yeah, it reminds me. I'll tell a story. I'll try to make it short. Once, because it's like Israeli issues, and maybe it's not the thing, but I remember that once the before Synonyms, they invited me. Someone called, don't know who, invited me to a meeting with French journalists, French and Belgian and European journalists who were in a visit in Israel, and I was in a very, I don't know, radical mood this day. So unlike other days, but they asked me some questions, and it became very, very quickly, it became kind of political discussion, and I was saying things that I partly agree with, but I was saying that I have total support in boycott on Israel, and that I compared. I told them, the Israeli think that their case is special, but each murderer in prison think that his case is special. It doesn't mean anything, etc., etc., etc. And I was pretty happy from myself, saying all the thing I wish to say. And then in the end of this discussion, a woman came to me and told me in Hebrew, it was very interesting. I was surprised because, I mean, they were supposed to be French and Belgium. So I told her, how come you speak Hebrew? So she said, no, I'm the ambassador, the Israeli ambassador in Belgium. So I thought myself, fuck. I mean, this was supposed to be like this. Sorry for saying fuck, but I mean, and then she told me, no, but it was really great. Maybe we could invite you to come to Brussels to say the same thing because they need to understand that we are a democracy. So then I tell myself, okay, you can't escape. I mean, you're all the time working for them. I mean, when you're for them, you work for them, and against them, it's even better. Yeah. So in a way, I think it was a little bit the same case with this movie, but I would say that about this movie, till today, I can't say if the movie is anti-Israeli or pro-Israeli. So maybe. It reminds me. Sorry, the second story, and then it ends. When the movie was released, the Israeli Minister of Culture, she sent one of the closest person to her to the premiere, and before the premiere, he came to me and he told me, "Hi, I'm from the Minister of Culture. I came to check if the movie is pro or anti-Israeli." So I told him, okay, when you find out, tell me, because really this till now is my feeling. So, it's maybe it's inevitable. I mean, I think it's inevitable when you have a powerful intimacy with a place. You cannot pretend as if you are distant. And in this intimacy, which is quite often is terrible, but in this intimacy contains, I don't know. You make such a movie and they call you Israeli hero. What? He said, what do they need in order to be offended? These guys. You can't offend them. No, but there were people who were offended in Israel. Huh? It's okay.
Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
There was a question over here. Yes.
Hey, thank you for the beautiful film. It touched my heart in so many ways. I have a kind of a technical question, which is your actor is so wonderful and he's so free, and it's like he has such an intimate relationship with the camera itself, right? Like and the story itself is so personal, right? Like it's touching and showing us like very deep parts of his being. Now, as an actor, that's a tough thing to do. And as a director, like with all the moving parts, right? Like with your camera and this and that and everything, like how did you preserve that purity of that personal sort of a performance?
I think that in a way I try to do maybe two opposed things. On one hand, to create all the conditions in order that he'll be able to exist. All the cinematic conditions, and then in a certain times to reinforce this feeling of freedom that you're talking about, or by letting the camera profit from the same liberty. I mean, when the camera is free and the actors are free, so I believe that this is like, the gate to paradise. But I think that I hope that there is a feeling of, in a way, a free choice in the movie. That things can go to a lot of places. The actor can do all sort of gestures, and the camera can do all sort of choices. And it's I think for me that the main, I'm guided by maybe in the most banal way, I'm guided by the attempt to be as close as I can to what I believe is the truth of the moment. And for me, this truth of the moment is related to chaos and to liberty, which are maybe the same thing. And I try not to fall into this, this tyranny of narration that what we feel in many movies. This attempt to make everything, to put everything in order. Yeah.
So do you need a lot of rehearsal with Tom, or less rehearsal?
I'm doing rehearsals. I don't know if a lot, but I'm doing rehearsals. But on set, I mean, I believe in the magic of the set, but I also believe that that if, for instance, if the cameraman and the boomman and the soundman and the guy who's pushing the dolly, if they all feel this thing, this melody of the moment, the thing that you can hardly put in words, but this, for instance, this vibration I was talking about, if they'll feel it in their head, it will go to their hands, and from them it will go to the camera and to the sound and to the dolly. That it's really, it's not an holistic thing. I'm not very, but I really feel that you fabricate moments, and when all the ingredients you have are either there's a cohesion or there's a contradiction, but if all of them are drawn deep inside, it might happen.
We're going to take one last question. The microphone is coming to you. Thanks.
Shana Tova. Your film, the character feels like he was very traumatized, extremely traumatized. I mean, I knew immediately it was autobiographical, just after meeting you for a moment. But that,
Okay.
but I mean, there's something I felt was similar to you, immediately. But
And some young man.
but that is never explained. You never explain what the trauma was. And it seems like it's that, in that way, it's not exactly autobiographical. And because by the very end, the way he tries to break in, and no matter how he's going to hurt himself, he can't enter that world, really. But his other behaviors are so extreme sometimes. So I wonder why you chose not to reveal the trauma.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel that if it's possible, but if we insist on defining him as post-traumatic, I would say that his trauma is life and life in Israel. I mean, I wouldn't talk about a specific event. It's not, he didn't kill them. Maybe he did, but it's not about killing someone or it's not a specific event. It's a result of something that accompanies you for a very long time, and at the end become your second nature, yourself, and until you can't distinguish anymore between yourself and your trauma or something like this, if you want to call it trauma. And then you know, it's not as if, you know, there was this one single moment where everything went wrong. That's why also it's a little bit connected to what I said before, that if you would have asked him what's so bad about Israel, he would spit on you maybe 100 negative adjective in French that he found in the French pocket dictionary. But he wouldn't be able to formulate in one sentence. And this exactly what turns it, for me, much more desperate and much more extreme, because when you can formulate something in a sentence, in two sentences, though, so we talk at the end about something tactical, but you know, it's a little bit like this difference between anxiety and fear. You're afraid of something, but anxiety comes from nowhere, and this is this anxiety who comes from nowhere, and this is this rage who comes from not from a concrete thing, and yeah. Thanks.
For a movie about trauma, you still have a lot of humor in it. So
yeah,
really good to mix it up.
This is an important thing. I mean, I always feel like when you talk about the movie, it sounds very heavy, and then I feel people. I hear people laughing, and I'm happy because I think that at the end, it's pretty playful. I mean, people are dancing, kissing, hitting each other, saying synonyms, all the pleasure of life. Yeah.
No, I mean, there's a lot of humor in the film, but we prefer to talk about trauma.
Yeah.
And it's also a great French film. You know.
Thanks a lot. Thanks.
I know they rejected you, but they'll take you back.
Yeah. I'm trying.
Well, thank you so much. We're opening the movie here on October 25th, so I don't know if you're coming back, but we hope you do. And we are very grateful for having you here during the festival.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Thanks.